Hi, I'm Rabbi Levi from the Chicago Mitzvah Campaign.
And I'm Eli Lebowicz, stand-up comedian. Hi, I'm Eli Lebowitz, stand-up comedian and tefillin enthusiast.
Now, after October 7th, so we knew that we have to do something more for the Jewish people, and we launched a project, the Tefillin Project, to encourage people to put on tefillin every single day. And the idea was we were going to subsidize pairs of tefillin by half price for anybody that commits to put on tefillin every day. And as we launched that, Eli Lebowicz reached out to us and said that he wants to partner with us. He wants to join the campaign, encourage people, and people that would commit on his end. He would pass over those names, so we would send out the tefillin, and we did a phenomenal job in getting many people to put on tefillin every single day.
Yeah, and it was a really nice partnership because after October 7th, I don't know what, October 7th happened over Simchat Torah, and then the next day after that, Shmini Atzeret in America. It was the day Shmini Atzeret that had happened, and then the next day was Simchat Torah, and then the day after was the first day to put on tefillin. So before I put on tefillin that morning, I posted on social media, "Hey, today's a good day to put on tefillin. If it's been since before the holiday, or it's been a while and your tefillin are a little bit rusty." And I posted it, and then I messaged people saying, "Hey, if you want to put on tefillin, and on behalf of people in Israel for the hostages, for everything going on." And I got a really amazing responses that people who hadn't put on tefillin in years, like fellow comedians who are not observant particularly, were putting on tefillin since first time since their bar mitzvah. Like it was amazing. People, I would just get screenshots of people just like showing me on their, the tefillin marks on their arm, or a picture of it just for my own thing, or people saying, "You know what, I did it. I haven't done it in 15 years." So in addition to getting people who already had pairs of tefillin, a lot of people would say, "Hey, I don't have any pairs. How can I get some?" And then I started, saying, "Hey, I'll figure out how to way to cover it." And then, through Jewish connections, I got in touch with Rabbi Levi, and he told me about his campaign. And we got, I think, at least through our own communication, over like I think 35 pairs of tefillin for different people, and to also all over the world. There are people in Montreal, in San Antonio, Texas, in Detroit, St. Louis, I think, Amsterdam,
DC.
DC. One guy, we got it for him and his son, and then his son turned bar mitzvah, and then we ended up buying for his son for his bar mitzvah later. One guy said he wasn't into necessarily putting on tefillin, but he ended up sponsoring about 20 pairs of tefillin himself, and then he ended up buying his own pair later. So it taught me such a lesson in this idea of the smallest thing that you can do, you have no idea how big of an impact you have. And like anybody who says, "Hey, I can't do something I can't do it. I don't have, who am I? What am I? I can't launch this huge thing." It's amazing because you can really just I put out this little message, and it spread like wildfire, and it was incredible. And listen, it became a nice little campaign. Somebody messaged me a couple months in and said, online, they said, "I'm not a fan of your comedy, but this tefillin thing you're doing is beautiful." And I said, "I didn't need the first part, but that was nice, a nice Jewish compliment I got." It was really amazing to be able to make a difference to the Jewish people in this small little way, bring some light and some laughter and some joy and some meaning to people, in a time when the world just felt so dark. I think it's really what being Jewish is all about.
And I think it was beautiful partnering with Ellie, being someone who's out there in the world doing the comedy and has a lot of followers, and using that power of influence to actually encourage people to do mitzvahs. Many people, sort of shy away from the mitzvahs aspect if they're out there in the world. And Ellie, being a proud Jew, and using that opportunity to get so many people to put on tefillin. There's many people that started up putting on tefillin that didn't get the tefillin from us, but they had it before from the bar mitzvah, but they never put it on. But they reached out and said, "Hey, we're inspired. We're going to get this going. We want to make a difference and change thousands of people's lives."
Yeah, so it's been a really nice impact to kind of help people just have something, show the level of like achdut and brother to get unity. That's the word. The unity that we could have, and it's maybe an unofficial Chabadnik in a bit of a way, in a little bit of a way. I was reading when I found out about October 7th. I was reading a book about Lebowicz Rebbe, so maybe there was some sort of subconscious imprint that was in there, because there was a story in Joseph Tushkin's book about the Rebbe, about a guy. It was a shliach who was traveling, and there was a guy who was a baker who was interested in wearing tefillin. He said, "I'll do it." He said, "Okay, I'll bring it to you in 6 weeks when I'm back in town." And he went to see the Rebbe before he left, and the Rebbe said, "If you think," you told this guy that it's so important to do it, but you're going to wait 6 weeks to get it to him. So he threw extra means. He kind of arranged to get it to him as soon as possible. And some of those stories, I took that very much to heart, where some people were like, "Hey, I'm in another city, I can't get it to you." I'm like, you know what? Let's get it to him as soon as possible. And we, again, overseas, to people in Israel, to people in Amsterdam, to people in Canada, all over the place. And it's a nice little message that we were able to bring for the world, that you can make your own little campaign just by small gestures.
Yeah, we took that message to heart, that whenever there was an opportunity, if somebody asked for tefillin, was ready to put on tefillin, we didn't delay. We would ship it out that day, fastest shipping possible, to make sure there's not a day goes by unnecessarily that they're not putting on tefillin. And I think the message for us today is to continue strong, use our influence to inspire other people, whether it's in tefillin or any other mitzvah. And we could all do this together. We could really make a difference by partnering with each other and using our influence wherever we can.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize one more thing, that it wouldn't have been possible to get all these pairs of tefillin for people if there were a bunch of people online on social media who said, "I'll sponsor pairs of tefillin also." So I didn't, meaning the rabbi was, through the program, was offering at half price, pairs of tefillin. That's still several hundreds of dollars that I didn't completely cover myself. So I, through these other means, a lot of different people online, friends of mine and other people, said, "I'm sponsoring pairs of tefillin." So this really was a team effort for the Jewish people.
We chose specifically tefillin. That's something the Lebowicz Rebbe started, this campaign of tefillin in the lead up to the 6-Day War, because tefillin says when you wear tefillin on your head, it actually brings fear to the nations. So it's particularly connected to safety. That's why we chose tefillin, to really encourage people in a time when we needed that extra safety for the Jewish people.
And also, as somebody who, I think neither of us were, born before the 6-Day War, but it's very understated, and the history doesn't really remember that the mood in the Jewish people and the mood in Israel and amongst worldwide Jewry was, for the 6-Day War, was very bleak. Everybody was very worried that Israel was going to get obliterated and was going to get wiped out in the incoming war from the Arab nations surrounding them. And the Lebowicz Rebbe was really one of the only voices of positivity, and said, "No, it's going to be, there's going to be a victory." And everybody kind of thought, it's hindsight bias, but everybody thought he was, not going to be right. And there was a inspiration very similarly post October 7th, that after the 6-Day War, a bunch of people who were not super observant Jews were putting on pairs of tefillin and getting more we're getting more spiritually connected as a result of that. I try to do it, sometimes I'm rushing in the morning and doing it, but like having this like established routine to think about, everyone's doing the whole hustle and bustle of life, to just take, the few minutes I have wearing it on a daily basis to think, okay, the world is so lost right now in a lot of ways. And the world is so lost in a lot of ways. And this is just a way to connect and see, by the way, there's so much more out there than what you're seeing, and the than what you're seeing in social media. And I don't know if that makes sense. Sorry.
Hi, my name is David Cohen, and I am a recipient of this great Tefillin Mitzvah Project. I was never particularly an observant Jew, but I always had a rule. If somebody had their own tefillin and wanted a wrap, I'd say yes. I was probably averaging just once or twice a year throughout my whole life. But then I'm planning my second trip to Israel, and it revolves around the Nova Music Festival. So my heart skipped more than a beat, learning that when the terrorists invaded Israel, the Nova Music Festival site was one of the first hit, what could have been, and it still stays with me to this day. But I felt a calling to do more, and so I reached out to a friend, Rabbi Yisrael David Wolf, and asked, what is a good mitzvah that I can do regularly to improve Israel's chances of survival? And we talked about wrapping tefillin, and we talked about this great program. You know, tefillins are manufactured by hand by expert sofrim. It takes a while, a lot of skill. They're not cheap, and I did not have a lot of cash. But fortunately, through this mitzvah project, I was able to afford my own tefillin. And right around the time we were planning this out, my sister got gravely ill, and I started praying for her daily, regularly. I was even wrapping on Saturdays because I didn't know the rules at the beginning. And it really strengthened my resolve to have my own tefillin, to wrap regularly, to do more. And Baruch Hashem, she's better now, years later. And while Israel still has its battles, security is strengthened. And I feel really grateful for the opportunity to have my own tefillin, wrap regularly, and be a part of this great mitzvah for my own soul, for Jewish life, for support of Israel. And I really want to thank Eli and all his partners for making this possible for me.
It's one of the easier mitzvot. If you have a pair of tefillin, it's one of the easiest mitzvot to do. It takes, you put it on. It takes about 2 minutes or less. Put it on. Maybe you could say the Kriyat Shema or a bracha to put it on, and you could take it off. It's not one of those things. I think one of the healthiest approaches to mitzvah that I think the Chabad infrastructure, or that a lot of Chabad guys have, is it's not a binary thing when it comes to mitzvot. Some people say, well, I don't keep kosher, I don't do this, I don't keep Shabbat, I am not particularly observant in these ways. And I don't think that matters. This is a thing that you're taking a few minutes to recognize. I'm doing something for my spiritual growth as a separate entity, so that and it's a personal thing for you, and nobody has to know about it. You can do it, but it's for you to recognize that there's something bigger out there, especially in a world that's very confused and very negative and very hateful. Here's a moment. Take a few moments to center yourself, and as part of your daily routine. Also, it's the summertime, so the law says that you're supposed to put it on during the daylight hours. At this point, the daylight hours are at least about 15 hours a day or close to it. So you have about 15 hours every day for the next several months to put it on. Find 2 minutes to put it on during the daylight on any day that's not a holiday or Shabbat. And it's a very easy thing to do. And if you have your own pair, it takes a few minutes. If it might be a little dusty, doesn't matter. There's never a bad time to start. If you don't have your own pair, you can go to the Chicago Mitzvah Campaign website and look up how to get pairs of tefillin. You can message me on Twitter or X. Sorry, you can message me on social media, Eli Lebowicz, and I could put you in touch with resources to help you get pairs of tefillin so that you can start doing this mitzvah.